And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and I'm one of your hosts tonight, Nate. Well, I guess it's early in the fucking morning. Tony also is here, which is fucking awesome. He's back from Pork Fest.
Yes, back from Pork Fest. It was great. I recommend it.
We got the great Ron. I don't know what do you go by?
Ron Weed.
Ron Weed. Okay. I like the Berserk Cowboy too. Space Cowboy is also awesome. So Ron Weed is joining us from the Imaginarium of Thought. We're super stoked to have you on. You're going to talk to us about numbers today, something that is not my strong suit, but I'm stoked to have you, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. And also, you sent me some stuff about your dad, and I definitely want to hear about that shit. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, for the people about the numbers, I talked to a lot of people, and they're like, as soon as I hear numbers, their brain checks out. But it's not gonna be like, we're not gonna be doing anything complicated. It's not gonna be like some mathematician blackboard or anything like that. It's more of a simplified version that is supposed to speak to the core of what a human is and what the universe is and things like that.
Neat, man. So, Ron, this is your first time on here. Why don't you tell our guests a little, or our audience rather, a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
I'm I have a podcast called The Imaginarium of Thought that I do with my childhood friends, and we just kind of get into like baby conspiracy theories, like very like normalized stuff. We go a little deep in information, but definitely nothing like I'm going to talk about today. This is more like something I say for when I talk to other people and things,
Cool, man. Well, we're glad to have you on. Where do we get started? You want to talk to us? Do you want to start talking a little bit about your dad or your background, or do you want to just jump straight into the numbers? Like,
well, I was actually listening to your episode with Davey Wavy.
Yeah,
my homie Davey Wavy. And
Davey's awesome.
You guys were talking about star seeds, and my first conscious awakening, I guess looking back at it now, might have been like kind of like a star seed-esque type situation that I kind of just, I guess, for whatever reason, was able to remember. Because it was literally coming from another world, and it'll kind of go into this number stuff here in the future. But I remember do you remember your first memory, like as a child?
My first memory that I really remember, that I have a sharp memory of, I guess it was like my niece. I was probably 1. My niece bit me, and I bit her back, and she started crying.
Wow.
But my second memory was in Disneyland.
How about you, Tony?
My first memories are really fuzzy. It's kind of like a dream, and some of them I'm not even sure whether stuff happened or not. Like I have a memory of being in the back of a car on a road trip, and I know that happened, but I don't know whether the memory is accurate. Like it could have been something that I found out afterwards. I went on a road trip as a kid, really young, and I fabricated something. So it's really blurry.
Or it's a memory of a memory. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
yeah.
And that's like some people say they remember having memories of being in a crib, and some people don't remember things until they're like 5 or 6 years old. And I feel like what that is how they say, like, children are the purest, most innocent, So when we're coming in here, we're almost like on cloud 9. We're kind of like entities with our heads in the cloud. But then the matrix, or whatever you want to call the reality around us, starts, I guess, affecting us. It starts going, it starts seasoning us to the darker side of the world, and that's when we start taking notice of it, I feel. Because in a lot of the, when you think about creativity and thought and everything like that, where did God come from? he came from the void, the emptiness abyss, right? Because and I'll go into a little bit later, but um, the only thing in that we are consciously aware of that is not affected by the physical reality or mathematics is the void space, is this abyss, this, it's the shadow realm, you can say, because even our dreams, as fantastical as they are under the laws of mathematics, because there's distance, there's a dimension of weight and scale, um, movements and actions and stuff. That's all mathematics. So the only thing that isn't is the empty. What they say is the void, a black hole, nothingness, right? And we would think, okay, well, nothingness has nothing to do with the physical reality. But what we have to realize is before something happens, it was nothing. That's where the saying "nothing matters" comes from. Nothing materializes and becomes something.
Interesting.
So
I just had a quick thought. What are your thoughts on those rules only applying to this dimension? Like, do you think I had this like feeling that there's not time. I mean, there's probably math, I guess. I don't know how applicable math is to every single dimension, but I feel like it's just an interesting thing. It's like there's weird rules that apply to this realm. And it's like whenever something comes from another realm, it has to comply to our rules, and it has to, like, maybe it has to appear in something that we can understand. I don't know.
hmm because they actually say that there's more colors on the lights, or there's more colors out there than we're able to visibly be aware of. There's
Yeah,
colors outside
one more.
our realization. So there could be sounds, there could be feelings, there could be different emotions and stuff that we're just here, we're not capable of understanding it. They say that's why most people can't really remember certain dreams, or they reach a stall point in a dream, is because now they're going into a different understanding of reality that their our human brains aren't able to grasp at the moment.
Yeah, that's interesting. And maybe you can't bring those things back here because you're back here.
Back here, yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's interesting. Because, like, yeah, you try to hold on to a dream, and it's like trying to hold on to smoke. Yeah.
I
hmm
So,
find that writing it down before you expose yourself to light helps a lot.
Oh wow, yeah.
Light erases your dream. So like if you can write it down in the dark enough to remember something, to jog the memory.
that's fascinating, Tony.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kept dream journals for years. I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of if you want to clarify what you mean by the darker side of things, when you said like you come into that, like what do you mean by that?
The darker side, I guess maybe that was just like when I speak of the void, I just mean like nothing, like and like it's like the nothingness would be like the mother's womb, and creativity is the fetus, and then what's birthed is the action, is the thought manifested. So that's why there's a lot of in the occult they speak of a lot of this kind of bonding of the male and masculine and feminine energies to either progress or regress thoughts and actions.
Ron, what's your thoughts on everyone being a star seed? What's your thoughts on like the whole concept of like we are from a spirit realm? You can call that heaven, you can call that something else. And so all the people, all the real people, the people that are actually here, because I think there's a lot of NPCs and or computer
Mm-hmm.
algorithms, uh, but all the real folks are star seeds. That and maybe the folks that know it are somehow they have memories from up there, and like because there's so many people that are here real. I think they're star seeds too. I just don't think they know it. They're still asleep.
Yeah, I feel like technically everybody is a star seed, but I guess it's more of, like you said, it's that it's more of like a rebirth thing. You know, they always talk about this like rising like a phoenix, and um, it's like everybody's on a track, right? We're all shackled and chained together, and we're just going about our thing, about our day. It's the people like who become are aware of that, are the ones who break the chains and shackles. And once you do that, you're able to look around and see, dang, I was one of them, because I was, I was absolutely, corrupted by media. I was trying to be somebody I didn't want to be or didn't really care for, just to fit in because I wanted girls to like me.
Yeah. Well, dude, isn't that the fucking story of every 15-year-old boy? Jeez.
Yeah. And that's why the media and celebrities and rappers and rock stars, they're so important for that programming. Is because they're getting us at those suspectable points where these are the times that kind of define you as an individual growing forth. Now, I'm not saying that just because you're, you know, wrong, you have wrong thinking and stuff in your teen years, that you're not able to grow and develop into a better person. But that those
Some of the
those
best people I know actually had those rough, crazy fucking teenage years. It shapes you and it actually kind of defines who you are a little bit, and it defines who you're not. You're
yeah.
like, no, I'm not that. Dude, if you knew me when I was a teenager, I was such a piece of shit. Such a piece of shit.
Yeah, I was pretty bad myself. Sadly, and sometimes it doesn't matter if you come from good households.
Yeah, my
Sometimes
mom was great.
too much control though can do the opposite effect. Like I have one buddy, had very controlling parents, wouldn't let him go outside of the house. And when he turned 16, 18, he was able to go out and start doing things. He just went mad.
Yeah.
Ended up getting arrested 20 something plus times because he's like, all of that wasted time, I want to make up for it by just going balls to the wall.
Dude, I knew so many girls because there's at the church that it wasn't the church that I went to, but it was like a school that I went to used to be a former Christian school. These guys are like hardcore. If you are familiar with what's a UPC, United Pentecostal Church, they're like the ladies that like, they're not allowed to wear pants. They always have a dress on, no makeup, no jewelry. No, like they're not allowed to cut their hair, so their hair is like down to their ankles, but it's always up in a bun. You know what I mean? Like super hardcore. Dude, so many of those fucking girls, dude, as soon as they like became like 15, 16, literally, dude, now I'm going to say something because I grew up with these people that I don't know if any of them are listening to this or not. My homie's sister literally fucked the entire football team. She fucked the whole team. And dude, that's just what happened. Like these girls just like went hard because they were like stuck in a box and were so ultra orthodox and like fucking yeah. And then just dude, she discovered dick and she was like, this is it.
And I feel like that's a lot of we saw it in even that movie Carrie. That I feel like that's the opposite end, where religion is really, it's helpful because you think, now I can reach further than what I understand. That there's more, because that's what you always want to grow, right? You always want, because that's what they said, when you stop growing, that's when life becomes boring. You're just you are the NPC. It's always, no matter how small it is, there's always constant improvements that you're trying to make on yourself, and that's why religion and belief in a supreme being is beneficial. But at the same time, we see how it can also be used to basically be communism. you know in a nutshell, this absolute control that's supposed to be nice for you. Good for you.
Completely. Like I'm thinking, like how hard it would be to navigate life if you grow up with all these arbitrary rules. Like you can't cut your hair, or you have to grow your, or have to whatever it is. Like you can't wear pants and all this stuff that doesn't really make any sense. And then you go like, well, all rules are bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was this little girl. She was like, anyways, little homie. She was like a couple years younger than me, but she like was innocent as fuck. So she seemed like a tiny kid. You know what I mean? And like we were in school, dude, and we went to a gem and mineral show, and like she fucking snuck a pinky ring. She went and bought one, and she was like, and she came over to me like she had like crack in her hand. She's like, look, and I was like, cool. She had to like hide that shit that she had a little fucking ring on her finger with like a fucking gemstone on it. You know what I mean? Like, how fucking retarded is that? Like, that's contraband. You know what I mean? It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's keeping you away from understanding God a little further, because those gems and those rocks, I never really cared so much, but I've been noticing like effects. I don't know if it's placebo or whatever, but um, these minerals, these rocks, these stones that they say is occultic and evil, it comes from the earth. So, it's like one of those kind of things. Like, is it here? It's a part of the foundation. How can we consider it evil when it was given to us, essentially?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a newbie to the conspiracy world. And I don't even know if that's much of a conspiracy. It's more kind of hippie woo woo stuff. But like, I think there probably is actual, like, I've seen enough people talk about it that there's real fucking energy and stuff you can get from crystals, which is fascinating. Uh,
Well,
so,
we're
I mean,
using crystals to have this conversation, right? Like, there's
yeah, kind of.
Oh,
there's
true.
rare earth minerals in all of our technologies, and
Some
we
poor
figured,
little slave kid had to fucking, like, yeah,
yeah,
do
yeah.
all kinds of
So
terrible things.
yeah, there's a
Talking
dark
about
side
it
to
right
this shit for sure, but like matter has properties.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, even the glass on my computer screen, I guess, is sand, right? I don't know. That's
Yeah,
some
I
sort of
mean, and there's
phenomena.
probably some bullshit in the whole crystal world too, but like it's not all like you gotta figure out what works, what doesn't.
Tony, what was your
Um,
theory about this? That these are many black holes that we're talking through right now, or like these are portals, like through phones and shit? Didn't you have like
Um, maybe. I mean, they.
maybe that was somebody else?
It sounds
but
interesting,
yeah,
man.
I think it's don't we also have crystals in our pineal gland, and that's what
Probably.
produces the colors that we see, when we visualize and stuff. And that,
Interesting.
and I believe so. And uh, oh, but I forgot to tell my little like story.
Yeah, yeah.
First
Talk to us,
memory.
man. Right.
So what it was I just my first conscious memory, my first like awaken, like this is the moment I realized I was a sentient being. I was looking up and I was holding on to a lady's hand, or she was holding onto my hand, or something like that. And I can't really, I guess maybe I knew what she looked like, but looking back in memory, she just looks like when oil is in water, like you see like all these different shadings of colors, I guess, from the reflection of light and stuff. That's kind of what it was, like a oil, like a blending of colors. But I'm sure, but that's what I think about looking back. But so she let so I'm on top of so when I say she's holding my hand, I'm looking up. There's a crust underneath, like there's a crust like underneath her and above me, like a crust of another earth or something like that. It's just weird, like this, flat earth looking plane. But so I'm looking around, and everything around me is a bunch of different colored orbs, like different colored orbs, and they almost seem like they were like watching me. And she's saying something like "I'll see you soon" or something like that, and she lets go of my hand. So I'm starting to fall, and so as I'm falling, I'm trying to retain my memory, but I remember I just looked down, was looking at my hands like this, and all of a sudden the thought, like who that lady was and all the things, they started getting like stripped from me, almost like when you're on shrooms or something, you have this crazy deep thing to tell somebody, and you go over to look at them, and you're like, "Damn, where do I start?" What even was I talking about? It was like that. It was like instant, like you know, strip of my thoughts, and as I start going faster and faster, like a warp speed, and I'm like a water slide. You know what I mean? Vertical water slide, and I'm going faster and faster, and now all the lights start going by like I'm going light speed, like in Star Trek or anything, Star Wars and stuff. Um, and so I'm going fast, 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 and all of a sudden it's darkness, and I see like kind of like in the movies, like you see like the eyes start to open up, and I'm like at a distance, and I'm like merging with the eyes opening up. I'm like coming, my consciousness is like merging with my physical body, and then I'm aware in this reality, and I look up and I see the ceiling, and then I sit up and I look to my right, and my cousin and my brother were standing there, and I go, "You're my brother and you're my cousin," and they're like, "Duh, of course we are." Like who else would we be? Because I guess we were taking turns jumping over this couch, and I don't know if I jumped over the couch and hit my head, knocked my soul out of my body or something. They're like, "Up, nope, not yet. Go back." Or what could have happened there, and I do remember my brother kind of like checking my head, so maybe I did hit my head somehow. But that's my first conscious awakening, was essentially coming from another world and merging into this reality. But I was about 4 years old when that happened, because I was still living in the Philippines at the time. So
Interesting.
that's
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 fascinating.
yeah, and I always hear, they always talk about like Sophia and divine feminine and things like that, like the mother. Um, they always I don't know if you've heard of people seeing apparitions of Mary and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
or this feminine, entity, I guess. Um, there's even, I don't know if you heard about those three girls in Fatima. I think no, it's not. I think it might have been Fatima. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
These three.
Fatima. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
in
and
Portugal, right?
Portugal, and then they ended up, everyone thought they were crazy, and then supposedly all these people saw a event happen live.
I mean, the Virgin of Guadalupe. Like in
Yeah.
Mexico, they all saw Mary. Like my homegirl fucking believes that shit like a motherfucker. She's all about the Virgin of Guadalupe. Like I don't know.
I mean, throughout history, it's been spoken like that. This. You know.
I mean, dude, I'm just have my own prejudices. Like I've been like I was raised super fucking Protestant, and like my
Mm-hmm.
my family taught me to be hella anti-Catholic. And so anything a Catholic tells me, I'm like, I question. I'm like, yeah, I don't think you saw Mary. But now, as I'm starting to grow and mature, and I'm like, they could have saw the feminine. You know what I mean? They could have saw
Mm-hmm.
that fucking that. Yeah, I have no idea. That is what Mother Mary is supposed to be based off of, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
fascinating.
I was actually born Roman Catholic now, but I'm like, I do not support them or recommend them at all. Like I have friends who are Catholics, but I just try not to hate on people, even though I have
I
different
tried,
opinions. But
man.
yeah.
That's like, how they say like racism has to be shoved in you when you're little. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what my anti-Catholicism was. Like I was always taught as like those are child molesters. They're gross. They fuck. They eat people. Like
Yeah.
Typical Protestant propaganda.
hardcore, dude. They hate Catholics. No, and then like I grew up too. Like I'm actually gonna do a fucking series on this at some point. Like if you're familiar with the chick tracks, do you know what those are?
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
Those chick tracks are like in the 1980s, 70s to 80s. They this guy, his last name was Chick, I think. He made all of these like Christian tracks, like so you'd be like, "Oh, God loves you," right? And they give you a track. You know what I mean? That's what it's called, like a
Mm-hmm.
thing, like
Like
give
a
your
C-
heart to God and that kind of thing.
like a
Uh,
cassette,
but
like an
but they
audio,
made. Sorry, what?
like an
Tony?
audio, like an audio recording.
No, it was just like a little booklet. Like a
Okay.
little piece of paper, right? And you'd see those. Like sometimes you'd see a fake $100 bill on the ground. You're like, "What the fuck?" You pick it up, and then it's like, "Jesus loves you more than money," or something. Like something. You're like,
I've been
"Fuck
fooled
you."
by them before.
Yeah. So like they're called tracks. So like churches will make all these tracks, and you pass them out. But there's a famous guy. Last name was Chick. He made Chick Tracks, and they got really big. And he made a comic book series called The Crusaders or The Defenders. I think it's called The Crusaders. Anyways, dude, like I found the majority of them online for free, and I'm gonna try to like put them on here. I'm gonna like go through like episode through episode this comic book series, and they're hardcore anti-Catholic, dude. They talk about like priests raping nuns and getting them pregnant and then sacrificing the babies and shit to Moloch, and like they go fucking hard as fuck. No, and they're legit as fuck. Like as I'm reading them now, I'm like, yep, that's true. That's true. Like it's hard fucking core, dude. And he just passed them out like they were comic book series, like for kids. And like, so I grew up reading those because my mom had them all. She might still have a few copies, man. I wonder if those are worth any money. But anyways, I'm way off track. Sorry. That's my anti-Catholicism. And I actually, my Catholic listeners, I love you. I'm sorry. I'm just a racist against Catholics. And I'm trying not to be. Like, my heart loves you guys. My head is like an asshole. So anyways, sorry, Ron, way off track.
No, I mean, that's perfect because, I feel the same way, honestly. Like, being Catholic, raised Catholic, born Catholic, and all this kind of stuff. If you trust the Pope and all these pedophile priests and stuff, and you just keep forgiving them, honestly, you might need to take a look at yourself. You want to support the religion works for you and stuff like that, but look at the leaders, and demand change there.
Well, I was talking actually. Well, I mean, and this is just obvious, but like I talked to David Icke not that long ago, and we were talking about how religion, it's just how people get caught up in religion and how it's used to control. Like I myself, like it's about like confining and controlling people's spirituality. It's about putting it in a box so that you never go outside that box and actually discover like what that religion was about, right? Like Jesus Christ is awesome. He was a great figure. Like, and what are the messages that he was trying to teach you? What are like to love your neighbor, to love everyone. And so the Catholic Church would occult that. They put it in a box. They called it Catholicism. And then you had to live within that box. And so religion is just a control mechanism. And so like, I don't like to consider myself religious. I like to consider myself a Christ follower. Like I love Jesus. That's my thing. Now, I don't hate on anybody else that's finding their thing, because I think that every single one of us has that spark of the divine. We have a piece of God, like what we talked about with Davey Wavy, right? Everyone has that fraction of the divine in them. And my expression is through Jesus Christ, but your expression could be something completely different.
Oh no, yeah, I'm a Christian too, and I'm a follower of Christ and stuff like that. For me, I did, I got a little story about that. I did, it sounds weird, but I made sound like I had it all together. I didn't. I'm a part of this world. I'm a fuck up. I've been ignorant, and I've been curious about things. So I've dabbled in ritual magic and stuff like that, but I was doing it more of like a personal level. And I was only purely like positive, like purposes, like no money, no prosperity, just purely I wanted to benefit the world and the people, I want to, and also to me, I feel like we don't deserve paradise until the sex trafficking shit is dealt with. Honestly, like people think, oh, that's just a distraction. Don't focus on that kind of stuff because that's the issue. It's not the easy road we're supposed to take. It's the hard road, and that's yeah.
Because I have a thought about that sort of. It's like because me and Tony have talked about this concept a few times. It's like this realm, whatever it is pliable, and you can make this realm hell if you want, or you can make this realm heaven. And so it starts with you and your perception of things and the way that you work your ass off to create heaven here. Like you can fucking make it happen. You can be positive and you can feed good into the world and you can treat other people like, you can create heaven here. So I think that we do, if you put in the work, I think that you do deserve heaven here. But maybe part of that is creating heaven around you and your surroundings. I don't know. That's fascinating. I don't know if there should be like a collective punishment, but I think there is something to what you're saying as far as like it's hard to relax when you know some crazy shit is going down like right next to you, right? Is that
Yeah. Well, it's also too. It's the self-serving and then the service, uh, you know, duality there, right? Yeah, of course we want to be self-serving to ourselves and the people around us. I mean, for that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to live life. We're not just supposed to be, the horse that everyone rides on. But it's knowing that your actions and things that you're doing might not benefit you directly in this lifetime, but it might be the seed that's planted to benefit future generations. Maybe they're not even your bloodline that's gonna reap these benefits, but it's that saying of doing the right thing without seeking reward, just doing it because it's what you're supposed to do. In that moment, it's those little choices.
yeah, yeah, I get that. That's interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, what trafficking specifically are you referring to? Just like the elites doing things to like kids and stuff, or
Oh, I'm sorry.
so
I
what
didn't.
specific trafficking were you talking about?
Oh,
Like, are you?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The sex trafficking and stuff like that with the kids, because a lot of people think, oh, they're just perverts, right? And this is but people have to understand that in their eyes, this is good when they really say that this inversion, right? Okay, so in their eyes, moral laws of integrity that we're told to follow, and this self discipline, right? To them, that's the chains and shackles. Because as humans, true freedom is to be able to delve into the do as thou wilt mindset. You want to, you know, do whatever because it's what your physical body, it's what your primal nature is telling you want. Growth and enlightenment is knowing that that's not what you need. It's not right. You know what I mean? And to discipline yourself to fight it. The whole term riding the beast. You don't want to be devoured by the beast. You want to ride it, and that's why also the thing with the Masons and the goats. You see them riding goats and stuff like that because the goat symbolizes the devil, the beast and stuff like that in time. So it's kind of like saying you have to learn to ride the beast, not be devoured by it. Being in control of that primal nature. Yeah, and that's why I feel that's like what's getting my point. I'm sorry, but so they we think, oh, they're doing this because they're evil and they're mean and they hate people and blah blah blah. Honestly, no, they're probably doing all this weird nasty shit and thinking, oh, we're so pure, we're so this is love, when they're not thinking as, oh, I'm a creepy pervert, I'm gonna molest these kids. They think, this is joy, this is freedom. And also it goes beyond the perversion. I mean, from what we know with Moloch, it's sacrifice. It's not really so much uh, for perverts. At the highest level, it's more of like this. This is it's a want. It's a desire. So they're if they sacrifice for their like basically the old Canaanites, they sacrificed the baby to the Canaanite statue. They're not crying, oh my baby, oh blah blah blah. No, they're saying, oh boy, Moloch's gonna look out for me. I did good today. Hey, I sacrificed my firstborn. Oh, good for you. It's that's what people need to think. It's not so much good and evil. It's a twisted ideology of what they believe good is. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could see
So
that manifest. Like people still join the military, and it's kind of the same idea where you're
yeah,
sacrificing kids for this ideal that you believe in, but it's a
dude,
sacrifice.
that's sacrificing your baby to Babylon right there. Having your child sign up
yeah,
for the military. That's pretty fucked. Yeah,
and
that's
a lot of
fascinating.
veterans, they come to that realization that these people that they're killing, they're a lot like them. There's not much of a difference. They're just on the other side of what belief is. They believe in a
Yeah,
different
that's a
thing than we do.
fascinating thing, dude. When you realize that like the people have much more in common and the elite have much more in common on both sides, like, like Vladimir Putin probably has a lot. Well, I would say fucking Joe Biden, but he's not sentient anymore. But you like our elites, and you know what I mean, and their elites have much more in common with each other than they do with us. Like our own elites have less in common with us. You know, it's all
Oh,
about power and
definitely.
control and manipulation, dude. Yeah, it's a fuck thing, dude. It's really a fuck thing where when you just realize it's like you just have a bunch of rich people at a table and we're just useless eaters and they throw us at each other, and it's just and sometimes it's just for a game, sometimes it's just for something stupid and
Morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
or
I
money.
like to say it's the same way as like when young kids, I'm guilty of it. Like you take the magnifying glass and you burn the ants. It's that same kind of psychopathic mentality, but they just have a ton of money and they take it to next levels.
One time, dude, we were on fucking shrooms and we were like in the back of my like behind my garage and we were smoking some weed and there was a whole like trail of ants. And so we just thought we had this idea. So we break a couple of their legs and we were putting them on top of the green and we started smoking them. We were like, we're gonna smoke their life essence right now. We're gonna smoke life force. We must look like a fucking couple of goons just back there out of our minds smoking ants out of on top of our weed. I don't
Yeah,
remember
and
it different.
I'm sure a lot of it is very similar to the elites. We're looking at these, in that childlike mentality. We're looking at those ants like we're superior to them. We could do whatever we want to them. It's the same concept, except we're the ants now.
We're smoking, yeah, I'm smoking their life essence,
Right.
and like that's them fucking sucking a baby down like a go-gurt. They're eating our fucking life. Yeah. What's fascinating, man, is I was talking to an interesting dude. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but his first name is Jehan. If you know that dude, he's fucking cool. We had him on, and we were sitting there talking. I'm pretty sure by our talk, he didn't say he was a vegetarian, but I'm pretty sure he's a vegetarian because of this whole talk where we were talking about the elite using adrenochrome and like getting something from it, right? Like that whole concept of like because there's soft disclosure where it's like, hey, look, here's this old mouse. If we give it blood from a young mouse, it makes him young again. Like, and you're like, what are you guys doing? Like they're peddling the soft disclosure of like them eating fucking babies, right? And I just think, honestly, I think that's why they pushed abortion so hard because I think that they're just taking fetuses and they're fucking eating them, which probably, dude, honestly saves a ton of babies from being sacrificed. Like they are being sacrificed, but at least like, yeah, abortion really is fucking giving your baby to fucking Moloch, dude. I mean, there's no fucking doubt about it. And I think, anyways, but long story short, he was saying that us eating meat has a similar effect. We're getting adrenochrome. We're getting like that feeling, and we're getting like something from the meat we eat. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think of it that way until he said that. I was like, fuck, maybe. That's fucking fascinating. And because and if you like torture an animal before you fucking kill it, if it's all stressed out, the meat is totally different. Like the
Yeah.
texture, everything is like totally fucking different. And but maybe that's the good stuff. Maybe you want to torture your animal first, and then you get all that yummy adrenochrome. I don't know.
Well, it just popped in my head thinking about that. Maybe because how the lower level entities are, it's all about quantity, right? They're not so much concerned about the quality of the energy or whatever they're eating. It's just they want more and more and more and more and more. You know? Greed,
There's some of that, but I think
gluttony.
it's the frequency. Like that was another thing that me and David I talked about. It was like it's all about frequency and about those lower frequencies because that's the energy that they absorb. And so like dude, and I'm sure you like I don't know what it's like to, have a baby given up like for abortion, right? Like I'm sure that's a shitty thing. You probably
Yeah.
go in there feeling like shit. You're scared, you're like fucking nervous, you're feeling guilty, like, and then they fucking kill it, and then and anyways. So I'm sure that's some great energy for those lower level pieces of shit.
Yeah. And I feel like on the opposite end, angelic beings probably feed off of our positivity and our joy and pure happiness, but for them it's more of a quality. There's not going to be much of that, but they want it to be as pure as possible. Like for me, I'd rather eat a deer that was frolicking around enjoying its life than a cow that's just laying on its side and miserable and waiting to die.
Yeah.
So then, like, how much are we complicit in this? Like, you're talking about how we don't deserve heaven, and I'm thinking about this, and like, there's definitely being frequencies pushed on us from the top down. Like, the internet could be this wonderful place where everyone is helping each other out, and the algorithms could support that. They could be like, look at this person, but they just shove negative stuff in front of you, so we're all in this negative kind of mindset because of that. But also, we make the choice to click on this stuff, like we could not support it. Like I feel like there's some part of us that is like we like it too, like or like some part of us like goes for it.
Yeah, it's primal survival instincts to focus on negativity, because that's where the danger lies and stuff like that. And but why I would say that yeah, I'm of course on my podcast I don't really talk about any sex trap, which I probably should do an episode thinking about it now and not be such a hypocrite, but I feel like yeah, people should focus on and do.
Oh, did we lose him?
We lost him. Hopefully he'll be back. What are your thoughts on all of this stuff, Tony? Here we go.
Are we back yet, man?
Hold on, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I think they're getting a heavier dose at the top levels of society than we are, and they're more attracted to it. But I think that they're feeding off the same thing we're feeding off of when we click on this stuff, or when we kind of just like every day, like we click on stuff that we know is going to make us feel negative. Why do we do that? Right? Like not everyone, but like it's a very common thing. So
That's fascinating. I wonder if that means that I'm a low frequency being because like I fucking feed off of that shit like in a weird way. Like it doesn't bother me. Like I can read about like something terrible and I'm like, that's fascinating. I think I'm just autistic. Like I look at things like from like an outsider's perspective. I can look at it analytically and go, it's like 10,000 babies were murdered in Sri Lanka. And I'm like,
interesting.
Hey, Ron, you there, buddy?
Hey, sorry, my back. Yeah, can you
No
guys
worries.
hear me? Sorry,
We
Yep,
someone's
can.
we can
trying.
hear you. So,
Yeah.
Ron, where
Sorry,
do
I
you
didn't
want to
know
go from
where I
here?
was.
Oh, no worries, dude. We were talking about we were talking about sex trafficking and energy and all kinds of that sort of stuff, or frequency and different things.
Oh
But
yeah.
Ron, let's finish your thought, and then, dude, I want to hear a little bit about your dad.
Oh
Ron,
yeah.
you there? Okay.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say that it's we need to wear the crown of thorns more than we wear a crown of jewels. That's the with occultism and the esoteric and stuff like that. Think of that symbology. Like doesn't mean we should always wear it, but Jesus didn't die with a crown of jewels. He died with a crown of thorns. But yeah. So the next like supernatural paranormal thing, and it goes with my dad and stuff. Is I woke up one night. I was about 12 years old, And mine, when I open my eyes, the whole room is like a neon green, fluorescent green like color, and it's bright. It's covering like my whole room. And so I'm on the top bunk bed. My older brother's in the bed below me, and my younger brother's in the bed across the room. And there's this light shining through the window, and it's that green light, right? But when I wake up and I first notice it, I think, it must be construction, or there's some sort of reason why this light is shining. And I just tried to go back to sleep. And the light started pulsing and getting brighter. It didn't like dim, it just got bright, bright, bright. And now it wakes me up because now I'm just seeing it through my eyelids, and I'm just flustered. And I get up and I'm upset now. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is this is going on? People are trying to sleep here. And I climb out of bed, and I call out to my younger brother, my older brother, but they're kind of like strangely like frozen in time, and there's like strange stillness. And so they're not responding, and I'm thinking, okay, this is weird, but I'm not like freaking out or anything. I'm still in my mind, I'm like, okay, there's a logical explanation for this. And I go to the window to look out and see what's making this light source. And as soon as I go to touch the blind, I get like a telepathic jump scare of a gray alien in my like mind. And at this moment, I literally was petrified by fear, like frozen, like I like just froze up and like fell back on my butt, like just fell backwards because I just like essentially like fainted, but I was still like conscious. And now I'm like wigging out, I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I'm in a situation here. And I remember just getting up, and I'm just like I'm just kind of like holding, I'm just shaking in fear. And I'm thinking about running upstairs, waking up my dad. But this voice starts talking to me. And at first I'm thinking, damn, am I going crazy? I'm like talking to myself and all this kind of stuff. And then it started to be, you know, started to realize that no, this is something's communicating with me. And it was basically telling me, calm down, calm down. You're chosen. We're going to guide you, and we're going to show you how to be, we're going to basically ensure you get wealthy and powerful. You just have to come with us, and we'll set you up. You're good. And I'm like, I'm scared and everything, but I'm like going crazy. I'm like, you know what? I might as well go with this. I'm like, okay, all right, this sounds cool. So I'm kind of excited now, and I go to walk out the door. I'm like, okay, let's go. Because I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I might as well go with it. But before I got to the door, it's like, wait, wait, wait. You have to make a choice. And I'm like, huh? And I turn to the right, and the room stretches out, like you're on mushrooms. And it kind of like defines my older brother on the left and my younger brother on the right. And it's like with the communication, it's words. Some of it's words, but then some of it is just, it's just like visions, or like you already know without being told. It's like you understand where this is going. And it was basically like choose a brother. My older brother's diabetic, like severe diabetic or whatever. So I was like, in that moment, I was like, well, he's diabetic. It thought crossed my mind, right? And it started diving into that. Hey, showing me what it would be like without him in my life, and blah blah blah. But I snapped out of it. I'm like, I don't care. And I said, no, I'm not going through with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And they said, why? Why aren't you going through with this? And I said, because it's not what God would want. And when I said that, they started laughing at me. I started hearing like the voices laughing. Ah, what's God? Where's God? What is God? And they're like, maybe it's there is no God, or that no, they're saying maybe it's because we're God, right? They're basically saying we're God. We're the masters of the universe. There is no God. God is a fabrication of your mind type thing, right? So it was like more of like a leap of faith moment for me. And I just said, I yelled out, "You're not God. God is good, and He's more powerful than you." And when I said that, they started, the charming, nice talking. They were like, "Ah, you piece of shit, and they started bringing up skeletons in my closet, and bringing things up that didn't paint me in a good picture. But I I'm pulling my hair and stuff. I'm pretty much going crazy, and when I'm like by the closet, uh, I get another vision, and this time it was like a galaxy, like a spinning galaxy, and it was red and orange colored, and then it started slowing down and started spinning the other way, and then it turned into a bluish purple color, and this image, this galaxy thing, even though it didn't have a face, it didn't have any way to communicate features or anything, for whatever reason, an emotion of a smile. Like, I'm like, this thing is smiling at me, even though there's no face. It's one of those like DMT type moments, hear breathing sound, or something crazy like that. Like, how do it's just something you can't. It's just a unique experience, and so now I'm like, I'm still going crazy. I'm like, am I going crazy? I'm like, maybe this is all just a dream. I need to get in my bed and wake up, and everything will go back to normal. So I get back into my bed. I climb up, and I get in there, and so I'm closing my eyes. I'm like, I'm not gonna open my eyes no more. I just need to wake up and type thing, like Dorothy, and so I start getting that like sixth sense feeling, like the goosebumps on your back and stuff, and I go and like turn over my shoulder and look back, and I see a reptilian humanoid phase through the door, and it comes in through the door, and it's almost like on wheels, just like gliding motion. Then it like turns, like does like a soldier, like a quarter turn, like a soldier would, and it's just staring at me from the end of my bunk bed. And to explain it, like it was like holographic. I could tell with my physical eyes there was nothing standing there, but at the same time, my third eye, whatever, was telling me, nope, it's there, and you can see it in full detail. So it's almost like transparent, but then full detail at the same time, and that's a weird thing. But so this thing, it was kind of smirking at me, and to say Gary Wayne, I just talked to him or whatever. I talk about him a lot because um, the reptilian thing, it didn't look like a lizard or an iguana or something like that to me. It looked more of like a salamander type being, and I heard that he talks about the salamander beings and stuff because it was more amphibious to me. Like it
Interesting.
seemed, yeah, it seemed like an amphibious type being, and like it could go in the water type thing. And it had its teeth were like tiny shark teeth, but very compact. Um, and I found an image on the internet, but it looks kind of like a gray alien. If a gray alien was more reptilian, like, or something, I don't know, something like that. And so it's basically just saying, "Come on, what, go with us, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Nope, I'm checking out." Like, people are like, "You didn't freak out, you didn't run, you didn't do anything like that." I had already like reached my like if I got scared anymore, it'd be just an exaggeration of fear. Like, I had tapped out. I was checking out. I was, you could have locked me up and threw me away in the padded cell at that point. But so I just closed my eyes again, and I was like, if it eats me, it's gonna eat me, whatever. And the second time I had my eyes closed, I got a vision of humans looking at monitors, and they were kind of like looking at the monitors, and it made me think, looking back, like, were they observing the conversation? Was this like some sort of a Project Blue Beam testing? You know, was it, because in that movie Wizard of Oz, at the very end, you find out that Oz was just this dude, you know, operating this giant head thing, and speaking through a mic. It was all just a creation. And then so I wake up, and it's more of like a scene change. I run into the kitchen and tell my parents, "Hey, I saw a reptilian and gray alien. They try to make a deal with the devil with me last night." They're like, "Ah, it's just a dream." Blah blah. So a few days later, my dad, he's like, "Hey, let's go pick," because we were gonna go pick up pizza. And in the parking lot, he was like, "Hey, tell me your story. Tell me everything that happened." And I explained it to him, and he's like, "Oh, that's good, that's good." And so my dad, later on in life, he told me, before he passed, that he had a gray alien visitation story as well. And how his went is he woke up and he heard a noise. So he got up to go see what it was. And when he got close to the door, he said he looked over in the corner of the room and he saw a gray alien standing there in the corner of the room. And it was just like, and then he said he had the same kind of thing where you just kind of like wake up and he's like, wow, that was a strange dream. And he goes into the kitchen and my youngest brother was in there. And he says, my youngest brother goes, hey, Dad, I was with you last night. And my dad's like, where? And he said, my younger brother pointed up and said, there. And he was like, holy shit. So he said he didn't want my mom to think he was crazy and leave us. So he just, you know, put that in the back of his mind and just left it there, you know. And, but since, you know, he's kind of like my paranormal buddy, I would talk to things like that with him. He shared that with me. He also shared something else. But to paint the picture, you know, my dad was kind of like a legend in the special forces community, I guess. You know, I'm just guessing because I've had, you know, Green Beret colonels come up to me, say, hey, you should have seen your dad in the Vietnam days and things like that. I've had a guy who went to CAG selection and, you know, my dad taught him some swimming thing, and which CAG is like Delta Force. And he came back and he thanked my dad for whatever helping him, and then he said, man, you know, if you only knew, or something like that, and things. And I got to see Black Hawk Down in theaters before it was released to the public, with people who were involved in it and stuff like that, and that was an honorable experience, you know, for me. And it kind of showed me the reality of what that life is like. Because during the action sequences, they're all like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, you know, die." It's, you know, just like, you know, mad animals, you know. But at the end of the movie, there was like, I remember there was maybe a few guys or one guy, you know, just crying his eyes out, and it's just a group of guys just huddled together, you know, having like a silent moment together, like while, you know, a few guys, or, you know, somebody was crying and stuff, you know, people were crying. And that sparked that moment to me. I was like, damn, you know, like that's the real deal right there. You know, you see all the cool shit, but you don't see the traumatic, you know, aftermath of all that. During and another story, during his funeral also, um, a they, you know, they do the flag presentation ceremony. So instead of one flag, they presented two flags. And if you look it up on the internet, it's only one flag per deceased veteran. It's protocol. But for whatever reason, they did it. And so the funeral lady, before the funeral, she came out, hey, they're going to do another flag. And we chose my youngest sister because she's in the Coast Guard military. So um, they did the flag thing, and they went to my mom. They knelt down, gave her the flag, and everything like that. Said the words, and then on behalf of the president, the Navy, you know, the flag, and he got up, saluted her, and then he turned around, and there was another flag on a tripod, and he went and picked up that flag, and then he took that flag over to my sister, who's to the left of me. And you know, he you know, says the words and everything like that, and then kneels down, gives her a flag, and when he stands up and salutes her, I look at his, you know, ribbons and things like that, and I noticed the eagle and the trident on top of his ribbons. So this guy was a Navy SEAL. My dad was not a Navy SEAL. He was naval intelligence, but he, you know, he wasn't a Navy SEAL. He told me, you know, he always told me he wasn't a SEAL and stuff. Um, so that was oddly strange, you know, that would happen at his funeral. And there was over 100 witnesses there. I had on my Instagram, in the story section, I have the flag that my sister has. I show that flag, and then I show the flag that my mom has. Um, so, but before his death, he, you know, because he died from lung cancer, so he's like, he could barely talk, and he's all shot up in morphine and stuff like that. And also with the killing and stuff like that, he had you know, he would see like Grim Reaper, you know, he's like, he'd come in there and he'd be like, Ron, turn off the TV. And I come in there and he's like, look at them. And I'm like, what? He's like, you don't see it. And I guess the newscasters and stuff would turn into like demons and have like real demonic faces, you know? and he'd have me
Well,
like
if
turn
he's
off the
closer to
TV.
the other side, he can probably just see it. I wonder how many of those newscasters just are demons.
Yeah. And he'd tell me, he'd be like, "You see that in the corner?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "There's like a dark shadow thing there, like a Grim Reaper thing." And one time, he's telling me, he was going through his remorses for killing and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Well, they're bad people." And he's like, "Yeah, but I still killed them," and things like that. And so, but one day I'm walking by, and he literally grabbed my arm as I'm walking by him, like reached out, and I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And he goes, "Ron, they took me to the moon last night." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, they took me to the moon." And I tried to get it out of him, like, but he couldn't, because he said basically they showed him a bunch of videos. He had to watch a bunch of videos, and he was on his deathbed, right? But for whatever reason, he was able to. He said, "I was like, were you walking? What were they doing? How are they able to get you around?" He's like, "Yeah, I was walking like normal and stuff." And they made him watch all these videos and learn things. And then they took him up to the moon. And he says you go around to the back of the moon, and it's like a all lights and everything like that, like a giant base. They went into it, and then he said they basically just took him a tour around the moon. And I tried to ask him, like, what did you see? What were they showing? He's like, I can't even explain. He's like, but it was cool. I guess they gave him a tour. But the one point that he really wanted to make to me was he said he was walking down one corridor or something like that, and there's because he forgot what the iPads were, because this would have been like 2018, 19, something like that, and he didn't know what the iPads really were, and he's like, oh yeah, that's what it was, and he said he was walking down, and he saw a guy looking down at his iPad, and he said when he walked by, the guy looked up and made eye contact with my dad, and they had while they were making eye contact, he said he saw, because he said there was a bunch of different alien species and stuff like that up there, like kind of like a Star Trek. He said he saw like the tall white aliens, and they walked past the guy, and the guy never took his eyes off of my dad. And that's the point he wanted to make to me. He's like, so if these things eventually, if you start interacting or seeing these other things, if they start showing up, he's like, don't be afraid. Don't have fear. And that's what he wanted to point across to me, is that guy, because my dad's like, holy shit, what the fuck am I seeing? But he said that guy was more of like, this is just another day. I've seen these, been there, done that. I've seen these aliens all the time. They don't even shock me anymore. There's no.
So you know how like dogs can smell fear, that
Mm-hmm.
whole concept, and like they fucking feed off of it, and like sometimes they'll like start barking louder at you and shit, and they get all riled up. I wonder if those dark entities feed off of your fear. Like if you walk past them, let's say you see one, and then you just are like frightened, you're like, holy shit. I wonder if that attracts them, like a
Mm-hmm.
moth flame sort of thing. They're like, they start
Yeah.
feeding that energy kind of thing. I don't know. That's fascinating. So if you stay calm and you actually start vibrating at a higher frequency, I wonder if they're just kind of like, they just, it's like a zombie after brains or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also that's also a part of like the prison, tough guy alpha male culture, is if you show any signs of weakness, that's when they're gonna jump on you, and it's almost like feeding, like you said, feeding that drive to pecking order, things
Yeah.
to say. But so yeah, for it's one thing, I'm just some guy having this, extraterrestrial stories, but having my dad, who's a very respectable person, not only in the, in this, I guess, as a veteran, military and stuff, but as a swim coach. There was over 100 people at the funeral. A lot of people looked up to him. So for someone as reputable as him to talk about being visited by gray aliens, it's kind of shocking. For me especially, because it makes me realize, oh, was this like a generational thing? Because they messed with my little brother as well, in some way.
I think
So
that there are bloodline and genetic components to a lot of that. Yeah,
yeah, and
absolutely. And whether or not it's because of that you have there's something about your bloodline or not, or that there's something specific to you guys that make you that help you more, that you guys are more sensitive to
Mm-hmm.
those other realms and you can like feel it, you know. Yeah, and I'm not sure, but I think that there's definitely something to that.
And what makes all this a lot stranger is a few years after this experience, that would have been like 12, so maybe 4 or 5 years later, I'm in high school, and I'm sitting down. I think it was math class, but it was like those rectangle tables, where 4 people can sit at the table, instead of having an individual desk. And so he's chit chat, first time meeting him, and he says something like, "Hey, I can see you got the light," and I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And he shows me this number thing, and then when he shows me this number thing, he says, "What do you think about that?" And I said, "Well, if numbers explain the physical universe, then this clearly shows that there's an intelligent design to reality, and that there must be some creator, supreme being, that put this into place." And he says, "Wow, that's a good answer. That's what I like to hear." And he says, "You should think of being a Freemason." And I'm like, "What's a Freemason?" And he's explaining me, "Oh, it's a brotherhood of powerful and influential people and stuff like that." And a female classmate, she sits down, right, and I just heard it, so I tell her, "Hey, let me show you what he just showed me, this number thing." And when I showed it to her, she's like, "I don't care about that." She's like, "I don't care about no numbers." I'm like, and then so he's leaning in, whispering to me. He's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "Don't share this with people." He's like, "This is like for the like few." He's like, powerful, influential people. They don't want this out being shared with people. I said, "I don't care. I got God on my side." The next day, I was transferred to another classroom. So, this guy, he was a Demolay, um, and which Demolay is like the junior Freemasons. So he couldn't be a Freemason because you have to be 18. So he's pretty much saying, he wasn't saying, "Hey, you're in the club." He was saying, get your grades up, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and then work your way towards it. And so this number thing, what it is but tell the audience, this thing, I forgot about it. Whenever someone would bring up numerology or something like that, I'd be like, "Hey, I know this number thing," but I never went further with it until a few years ago when I started learning about gematria, and all this kind of stuff. I said, what else is this story does this stuff tell me? And lo and behold, it actually broke out into a lot more. And that's where they say with the lower level Masons don't really know stuff. They know stuff, but they only know the surface level. It's more of like it's up to them to reveal the deeper meanings and messages to the story. What it is he drew out 0 through 9. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And those are the digits that represent, the physical universe, reality. People will say 0 has no effect over the physical reality, but we'll see with the sequence that it does affect the makeup. But so he drew out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then he goes, "The kingdom of God is within." So what he did is he added from the outside to the inside. So 9 plus 0, 8 plus 1, 7 plus 2, 6 plus 3, and then 5 plus 4. And that creates 5 nines. So he says, here goes, this is the most high, because we can't go above this now. We're always going to be chasing that maximum number of the max nines, because everything else is now just the starting point to reaching that peak level. So he says, this is the most high, but he didn't go that far. But basically, he just said, this is the most high. And he says, now we can't go above God. We can only break down from him. So let's do that. And so instead of adding from outside to inside, he subtracted from outside to inside. And that creates 97531. And he says, this is Adam. This is the masculine numbers, right? Odd numbers in numerology represent masculinity. So he says, now we have God, we have Adam, and now there's Eve in the story, right? So what we did is we subtracted 97531 from God, because Eve was created from Adam, right? Took one of Adam's ribs to, yeah, or whatever. So now, if you subtract the 5 nines from the 97531, you have 02468, and that's the even numbers. Eve, even numbers, and then also those numbers represent the feminine energies. And then now we have God, Adam, and Eve, and if you subtract all three, you get 5 zeros. Now, here goes where the 5 zeros are. God says he's the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. So that's what we see here. With the 5 nines, that's the Alpha. That's God, the Alpha. Then you have Adam, the masculine, Eve, the feminine. And then you have the 5 zeros, which represent God, the Omega. And so God is both the beginning, the 0, and the end, the 9, and then everything in between. So essentially, it's like kind of like how Polaris, they say like the Big Bang and then everything birthed out. When we look at the Polaris, it spins right above us. It's the same concept of like a seed and a rose. So the seed is the 0 and the creation of the roots, right? And then it grows up until it gets to 9. And now it blooms like a flower, right? And then when it blooms, it creates, the 1 and the 0, right? Is the new chapter. Is basically like the reproduction and growth. So it's always the same concept, but it's the growth. And then think about it where the 1 and the 0, a 1 is like a male phallus, male genitalia, and the 0 is the feminine genitalia, you know. And so these numerals that we use are the Hindu Arabic numeral system. It was created by an Arabic and a Hindu mathematicians a long time ago. I can't remember, but a lot of the ancient number systems, right? They did not have a 0. The Egyptians, the Romans, and the Greeks didn't have a 0 because 0 was more of like a esoteric understanding. If you explain to somebody that nothing actually matters, especially back in those times, they're like, "The fuck out of here!" That shit. So 0 is more of like a secret understanding that only the higher levels of the secret societies understand at that time, knew of those concepts. So that's what he showed me, right? Was that, and he stacked the numbers on a block. So the 5 nines, did you have those images I shared earlier?
Yeah, do you have a way? So there's a private chat on here.
Mm-hmm.
Send them to the private chat, and then I can put them.
All right. Let me see here. I'm tapping on it. Oh no, I guess I don't know how to do. But yeah. So with the f- 5 nines, and so with that thing, right? This is if you add up that entire block, it actually adds up to 90. It accumulates to 90. So
90. Yeah.
90, and then we think also 90-degree angles, right? Like with the compass and everything around us. We're in this, 4-dimensional understanding, right? We say 3-dimensional is because we don't account for what's behind us, or what we don't see on the other side of the box. That's where you see, but getting ahead of myself. But okay, so the 90, right? I kind of started calling this thing like the heartbeat of the universe, right? Because the heartbeat is a beat, so it's a vibration, it's a frequency, the how fast it beats, and then it's also uh, energy. Because a heart actually rests at negative 90 millivolts before it contracts. So when it contract, so a heart is basically um, a heartbeat is basically a magnetic effect of energy going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and that's what Tesla's saying. You want to understand the secret, think of frequency, energy, and vibration, and that's the process of the heart, which keeps us alive. And you ever seen those heartbeat monitors where it shows that little beep beep? thing.
In movies, yeah.
In movies, yeah. So that's called a PQRST wave, and this is kind of matching with Gematria. P is 16, Q 17, RST, 18, 19, 20. If you add up all those numbers, the geometrical value of those letters, it becomes 90. So that's another linking effect, right? So this block thing too. I also this from here it's kind of hard to explain for the listener, but okay, so it can actually break out into 6x6 square. And this 6x6 square, when I figured this out on Twitter a few years ago or whatever, I saw a crop circle of a cube. You know how the flower of life is like a cube and stuff like that. And I was like, holy shit, it's bordered just like how I made this number block thing border out. And so if you take three, so a cube, right, on that plane, 6x6, it would be an accumulation of 36 times 3, because when you see the cube, you only see the three sides of it, right, from your angle. So that's 108 individual cubes. And what's his name? Fibonacci, right? The Fibonacci sequence. He says that 108, the number 108, represents the wholeness of the universe. So as you see with that cube I had sent, it's called the for the listeners, it's called the Hackpin Hill crop circle, and you see 108 individual squares on one side, right? But even though we can only see the surface 108, another 108 qubits fit on the other side. So it's understanding that not everything that's there, just because you're not able to see it, doesn't mean it's not there. And if you account for the other three sides, it would equal 216. 216 and was actually considered by some scholars as the original number of the beast, because 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. So that's where yeah. If you want to look up into the Hindus, right, their sacred number is 108. For the Jewish people, their lucky number is 18. 6 plus 6 plus 6, 18, and then two 18s is 36. So that's where they're talking about this 369 stuff, right? It's kind of this concept with 369. It's but also with that, I don't know if you ever heard of the magic flute.
No, tell us about it.
It's Mozart, Amadeus Mozart or whatever. He's like one of the most famous composers of all time.
Yeah, my mom loves Mozart. Yeah,
He
I grew up with.
his one play, the Magic Flute. It
Mm-hmm.
actually was secretly, he was explaining the secrets of Freemasonry within the Magic Flute play.
Interesting.
The initial starting where it goes bum 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 bum. I'm sure you've heard that in 2001: A Space Odyssey is a song that plays at the end. That's actually has, I think when I looked it up, that has to do with the way they knock. Like that's like the sequence pattern for the way they knock on the door. The secret knock or whatever. So in that play, you have a hero journeying to save this princess who's supposedly being kept by a leader of a Freemason society, or of a secret society. Sorry, and he's being told to do this by the Queen of Darkness. So with those four main characters of the story, I've just expressed the what that number block was. The five nines represent the obtainer of knowledge, someone who's enlightened himself to that point. The 97531 is us reaching that stage, becoming the hero, right? Realizing that we have to be the hero of the story. The 02468 is our feminine side, where we are trapped by the flesh and the world of fleshly, things. And the 5 zeros represent the Queen of Darkness, obviously, the void, the abyss. And um so it's the same, it's a story, it's basically for instance, that number block I showed you, if you take it and then reverse and flip it and connect it together, it creates 40 digits. And we know that in the Bible, the number 40 is very important. 40 days, 40 nights, walk the desert for 40 years and stuff like that. But this was a number that was written in Hebrew and Greek. But then, however many thousand years later, the number 40, when written out, is FORTY. It's the only number in the English language that goes in alphabetical order. So when we think about 4, how why 4 is 0, right? Because also we have 4 seasons, we have 4 directions. We have the 4 cardinal directions. We have 4 elements, right? Other than the 5th element, which is ether, which is what we hold. So it's also with the way at the molecular structure, you have a nuclei, which is the 5 would represent like the 5 nines, and then which is like neutral. No, yeah, neutral point. And then you would have the electron would be the feminine. You have the proton, which would be the masculine, and then you would have the damn, I can't remember what the other one that represents darkness. It's been a while since I've done this stuff actually, and I try to prop it off the top of my head, but it just shows like linking like that. But with that, it's for people, it's one of those kind of things where it's kind of like it 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 breaks out into so much different things, and it's kind of I don't want to scare off the listeners by me talking about different numbers and things and that, but I'm trying to paint this picture of it's basically an expression of as above, so below, in a short term. In a long story short, as above, so below.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I'll share some of those photos like on Instagram when I put this out, so then people can see it and stuff.
Yeah, and it'll help visualize the picture better. And this same concept even goes with the I don't know if you've heard of the Last Supper painting
Mm-hmm.
by Da Vinci. Okay,
Yeah.
so they talk about it. Da Vinci was all about angles, right? He would a lot of his paintings he would just tap a screw in the middle of where he wanted to paint, and then he would use a string and line out the dimensions.
Interesting.
So with the Last Supper painting, right? Um, if you're looking at it, because they said there's something that is revealed by you having to be standing in front of it. So Jesus is in the center, right? And he's almost like the focal point. He's the light, right? But if you notice in that painting, there's 3 openings um, behind them, behind the table.
Mm-hmm.
So the opening in the middle is kind of like your third eye, and that's where Jesus is placed. And then you have the other 2 openings, your left and your right eye, right? And then uh, so the viewer is observing this. Now, where this is going to get a little strange is this is uh, Da Vinci was really into like an anatomy and actually applying that anatomy to his artwork. So if you're looking at the Last Supper painting with that concept, you'll realize that the light source behind Jesus is okay. Behind Jesus is the light source, and then you have the table, which would or the painting itself would be our eyes, and then there's an invisible cord between that painting and you standing there observing it. But this is how, so the light, right? Our eyeballs, we process a focal point of light comes through our eyes, and then it goes through the optic chiasm to the visual cortex, which resides in the back of the brain. So when you're standing there looking up at the Last Supper painting, you are actually you're viewing it in the same way it's created. I'm not trying to articulate this. I had a good way, but so basically, the painting shows how our minds process light and visualization, right? So by you visualizing the Last Supper painting, you are like connecting that trifecta, because it's the painting, right? So it's basically linking how the basically that's what I think Da Vinci. This isn't anybody else. This is something I just thought of, but basically Da Vinci was showing the process of light through our visual and how we visualize it through you standing there looking at the painting. So, for instance, you standing there is the optic chiasm. You are now visualizing what that painting is. The visualization, even though it's not there, because we know about the double slit experiment and observation, how our observation affects visual reality. So between us and the painting is the optic chiasm. The painting itself is our eyeballs, and then the point, the light source in the back, is the focal point and how the source of light that we absorb. So I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm gonna have to re-listen to this a couple of times, but yeah, crazy, man.
Yeah, I would have to look at the picture too as you're explaining it. I think that would help
Yeah.
for anyone to hope. But
But so
yeah,
it's just it's showing how we are in many, this is done with the flower of life or any other thing. This is just a mathematical version of the flower of life, essentially, because all the mathematicians, all these people will say, oh, if math represents the physical universe, right? But then to also tell you everything is random. There's no intelligent design. Everything is by chance. But if you take the system, the numeral system itself, you literally unlock this code that shows no, there is a structure and there's an order to the way things are done, and and it's obviously, it's obvious that there's a divine presence within reality. We're not alone. Things aren't just random. There might be random happenstance, but the structure of the universe itself is by design and order. We didn't just poof and all of a sudden there's reality. So what this essentially shows is that the Big Bang theory is all bullshit. And things didn't just everything is just didn't happen and all this random shit just started happening. It's a structure that this universe follows, and that's shown with the double slit experiment, right? Because until we observed the particles were just in chaos. They're just doing whatever they're doing. And it took us, the observer, to make these particles that we can't even see start following the order and structure that they're designed to do for us. So it's just showing how us as humans, we may think we're just flesh and bone and stuff, but in your inside is a star seed that knows that you are more and you're more powerful than you can even realize. How you are this universe, and you're woven into the fabric of it.
I love it, man. Yeah, 100%, man. We are just. This is not a random rock. We're not monkeys flying through space. I don't even fucking believe in space.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
because it says water's above and the water's below. It's just a different sea. But with this number thing, where I said with that number 40 block, I forgot about that. You can take that number 40 block when I take the initial thing that I was taught, and you have the in reverse.
Ron, I'm losing you, buddy. Sorry. Are you back?
Oh no, I think he blacked out.
He blacked out. All right. Let's see here.
Is he back?
Hey, brother. Not yet. Tony, what are you thinking about all these numbers, man?
It's interesting, like, so the concept of a zero is a new number. We've had a numeric system for a long time without zeros. I'm thinking about that because it's like preposterous. Not
Yeah,
to
I
how
can
it's
imagine that being hard to explain that as a concept to people that like didn't understand math, like having zero as a representation, of nothing. That must have been, yeah, hard for them.
Yeah.
Ron, can you hear us again? Okay, I can't hear you again. I don't know if it's one of the audio things.
Yeah.
He was just going to tell us something too, I think important.
Yeah, he's gonna wrap it up with all the secrets of life and everything, and I guess
And
we'll
that
just
we'll
have to
never know.
now. Yeah. What does it all mean? Well, I guess I don't know, man. I guess it's at 12 right now, so
Let's see. Ron, let's see if we can get him back and see if he can explain that last concept to us.
Hello, can you hear me now?
oh
I
yeah,
can hear
yeah,
you now. Okay, there we go.
yeah.
Okay, you were literally
Oh,
just starting to wrap shit up about the 40.
oh yeah. So you can stack that combination of numbers up, down, left, and right initially forever, and so that's showing how it's the flower of life, but in numerical form. And so this makes me believe that there's probably two worlds linked in some sort of um, linked in the middle by some sort of energy. And if you look at it, but basically saying that even though there's two worlds kind of linked together in a way, that those two worlds are linked to a combination of other pairs, and that I believe in a bubble universe, and God is woven into all of the fabric of this reality and every other reality, but in a way like there's different pairs, like reality is a pair, but then those pairs are connected to a greater linking of a tree that is just eternal. It never ends. It seems like it never begun. It's a beyond our something we can put in a bottle. And you know I don't think God can ever be understood uh by normal physical tangible means here in this reality.
Yeah, while we are in this reality, while we are in these meat suits, there's limitations. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, once we come
And that's
out,
what
once we're at the source, things will make sense again.
it's and why things had to be done a certain way, and why you need to hold yourself by integrity and moral standings, because maybe when we get to the end, that's what's going to make sense, where you want to show up in heaven or whatever happens when we die, and get pats on the back. If that's what happens, then people going, shame on you. Shame on you.
You know what's fascinating, man? I just keep talking about it, but like this was something that me and David Icke were talking about. Was like, so if it's a very Gnostic idea. If this is like a prison that we're in, our souls are trapped here, sort of, right, and we're doomed to just keep coming back unless we achieve a certain frequency, and that is what unlocks and lets us break free from this. And so I think that it is about like vibrating at those higher frequencies, and so being the best person you can be, like moving forward, like with love, sharing love, spreading love, kindness, joy, that sort of thing, and so that you are vibrating at those higher frequencies, and that maybe is the only way to break out of that barrier. And so we
Yeah.
get back to the source instead of just coming back here. I don't know. That's a fascinating
or we
idea.
just come back here and it's a better place.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no reason why it has to be a prison here. I mean, we are trapped here, but
Yeah.
And that's
It's
the
been
thing. I
like
don't
your
think it was
day.
meant to be.
I can put things up and make my cage pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a whole planet, It's
Yeah, but what's it like outside of this planet? We could fly through the universe.
it
I have no
sucks,
idea.
man. The rest of the
It
universe
sucks.
sucks.
It sucks.
You just need
Yeah.
your
I actually agree with you, Tony. I think this is the bee's knees, dude.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. If you
yeah, I
were
don't
like,
know.
I don't know.
Well,
I
there's a
like,
reason why angels decide, fallen angels decided, heck, we're gonna. This is good
yeah.
enough. We're just gonna.
Yeah,
Dude, I know so many people get like pessimistic or they're just like negative about stuff. Earth is fucking awesome. Life is great. There's so many new experiences. Like, I'm a chef. Like, I just want to eat food. Like, my fat ass, like, I want to go get Nigerian food right now or some Ethiopian food. Like, for real, like life is pleasurable. I want to go sit by a lake and like where there's some fucking trees and there's a nice breeze and eat some spicy Ethiopian food right now and just like chill and hang out with my wife and baby. Like, life is pretty fucking great, man.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
focus on the negativities when we're focused on survival, but we focus on the positivities when we know how to live.
Yeah. Well, Ron, you probably got to getting ready for work. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on. You're always welcome to come back on, and I'll try to send me some of those images that you think I should share because I think there's like 10 images you can share on Instagram during a post, like maybe the most important ones or something. Highlight those for me, something like that. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Do you want to tell us one more time about your podcast and where people can find you?
Oh, I'm from a podcast called the Imaginarium of Thought, and we're kind of more like baby truther stuff. So it's never gonna get this deep. So, yep. But
Well,
we just try to chat, enjoy life.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, we appreciate you, man. I'm gonna hit the outro and have a great day.
take care.
Mm.